वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hi Krishna, welcome everyone. So I think almost everyone has taken prasadam except Sri Ram Gopal Prabhu who came. It's okay, na? So we will discuss something from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll start with the third canto, that section of Kapila instructing Devahuti, and then maybe from there we'll go to some other places in connection with this. The topic under discussion is execution of devotional service in under various qualities of material nature. So there is a series of these 4 or 5 verses which I'll first go through, and then we will start the discussion. Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, "O noble lady," he's talking to his mother, "there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of different qualities of the executor." So he's talking about the fact that devotional service can be of different kinds depending on who the executor is. So the first one, he says, can we just close the door? They can make as much noise as they want. So, but if the door is closed. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, and who is a separatist, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. So basically he is defining devotional service done in Tamoguna, Rajoguna and Sattoguna, like that. So most of us must have obviously read this section, but this is what we are trying to discuss. Then the second verse he says about in Rajoguna. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. And then finally this third definition is coming. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inabilities of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. So there are these 3 definitions which Kapila Dev is making to his mother Devahuti about how a candidate may perform devotional service. The whole thing here is, just like Devamrit Maharaj in one place he says, knowledge in Vedic culture and civilization is what he calls as state specific. State specific means it depends on the state of consciousness of the person, what knowledge he obtains. Unlike in our modern times in schools and colleges where we understand knowledge to be just some data or information with no connection to how that person himself is, right? But here it is not like that. Knowledge is always state specific. So who you are, that determines how you see the world. That is how it is. Knowledge is state specific, means who you are determines how you see the world. So that's how it is. Obviously a very important part of being state specific is the 3 modes of nature. And this is discussed in so many places actually. And this is something very unique in our Vedic literature. Whether it is Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, our scriptures really talk about these 3 modes in such great detail, which no one else talks about. Like many other concepts that perhaps we talk about, several others also address in some way. But 3 modes of material nature is something that's very uniquely, present in Vedic literature. And even in the 10th canto, when there is one description about the rainy season in Vrindavan, so in fact Prabhupada wrote one book called Light of Bhagavat. So there everything in nature. So that whole book is, that whole chapter, I think it is chapter 20th or something in 10th canto, where the entire focus is how you see the world in connection with Krishna. So when there is rain, at that time there are three things in a rain. There is cloud, there is lightning, and then there is also the thunder, right? So the lightning is compared to the mode of goodness, the thunder is compared to the mode of ignorance, and the cloud is compared to the mode of passion. Something like that, I forgot exactly, but those three things are again compared to the three modes of material nature. So the whole point is everything is seen that way. The reason why this is again being mentioned here, so this particular chapter is actually titled Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. He is explaining what is pure devotional service. So before that he explains these three types. This particular explanation is really important because it teaches us that when a sadhaka, when we perform devotional service in any of the lower modes, or when we contact the lower modes of material nature, the contamination that it brings in our system, it actually causes a lot of trouble in our devotional service. So one devotee was giving a nice example, which I would like to start with. He said that just like, suppose if a person is overweight, which is in many cases, and he wants to reduce his weight. So people go walking, jogging, etc. So it seems one doctor said that if you walk for 1 hour, generally if you walk for 1 hour, you burn approximately 100 to 150 calories in your body. But he said that if you eat one batata vada, that gives you 150 calories. So the doctor was making the point that how easy it is to gain calorie and how difficult it is to put down calorie. Eating one batata vada is actually very easy if you see. I mean, easily anybody, I mean, that's why I specifically had this lecture after everybody has honored prasadam, so there is no pressure on the, prasadam later. Only 2-3 people like Sri Ram Gopal Prabhu, Patit Pan Prabhu are yet to have. I have not really calculated one damalu as how many calories, but pretty likely it has little more than batata vada. Batata vada is, 150 calories. Walking home. So one batata vada is 150 calorie, and 1 hour walking, which will burn that many calories. So that is considered equivalent, basically, this doctor said. So the point is that in this world, gaining anything negative in this context of gaining calories is very easy. But to put it off is extremely difficult. So similarly, the example that I wish to connect over here is, via contact of lower modes, to take contamination inside is very, very easy. But to burn each contamination by performance of devotional service, our chanting of Hare Krishna and everything that we are doing, which is actually the jogging or the walking, to burn that contamination, we cannot even imagine. Like, if you actually see, there also it will be something like that. I'm not sure if anybody has done some spiritual mathematical calculation. Because there again it depends, you cannot say that. Because walking 1 hour is something very fixed. Here you cannot say that somebody chants for 1 hour. You cannot say that because it all depends on how he chants. He could chant in such a way that it could directly give him liberation, or he could chant in a way that it almost has no effect. So again, it all depends on the state. But I think we can easily make this correlation to understand, how easy it is to take contamination in the world and how difficult it is to burn the contamination in the world. It's extremely difficult. It takes so much of time and energy to burn it. So Kapila, he makes this particular point, and also the Bhagavatam is not just giving, definitions of these three types of devotional service. We all have heard this, but in the 4th canto, the entire 4th canto is actually an elaboration of this concept. Like for example, if you see, what was the first definition we saw of the person who is in the tamoguna? Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, and who is a separatist. Separatist in this context, if you see the purport, Prabhupada explains that is someone who has a separate interest from Krishna or who has a separate vision from Krishna's vision. Matlab, Krishna is looking at it in a particular way and this fellow is looking in some other way only. That is called a separatist. A separate agenda from God. That is the definition of a separatist. He is in the mode of darkness. So if you open the 4th canto and see, because this is the end of the 3rd canto. So the definitions are made here and the case studies are given in the 4th canto. So the first case study is what? What is the first major story in the 4th canto? Daksha Prajapati. No, Dhruva comes later. Daksha. From chapter 2 to 4th canto to almost chapter 7, there is a description of Daksha Prajapati. And Daksha is an example of this particular example. That means devotional service being performed in Tamoguna. Why is it like that? What does he do because of which it is considered like that? Anyone would just like to say something? Why do you think Daksha is in Tamoguna? What has he done?
Basically, didn't understand the position of Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
And he...
I mean, we can see all these qualities very easily, right?
Very, very easily.
Yeah.
So, and the main thing was, what was that, that he became too much attached to the ritualistic aspect of the devotional service. And he used to see everything in that way, and he was not able to understand the position of Lord Shiva because of that...
Envy.
Envy.
He was envious of Shiva.
Yeah.
Proud of his own position. I am a big Prajapati. And then, yeah.
I heard one point that Daksha means expert, not an idiot actually. So he was actually, Daksha means expert.
Expert, yeah, Daksha means expert.
That time naming was also given according to the quality of person.
Yeah.
He was a very expert personality, but just because of his this kind of attitude which he developed,
yeah,
he became completely, he does it later on.
So in fact we can see all these qualities in him. Envious, proud, violent and angry. He was very violent and angry. And even his Shiva's followers also were pretty much like that. So when there is a competition between them, then it became so ghastly. There was so much violence and fighting and everything. So that is actually bhakti in the mode of ignorance, where all these characteristics are present.
These qualities need, whatever symptoms have, this need not be towards the Lord or towards any...
It is actually towards the Lord only, but
right.
it is manifest to the devotees or to somebody. But it is hidden. See, that's what, see, Daksha will not directly say that I am envious of Vishnu. He is a devotee after all, right? That hidden envy and anger and everything is there, but it is directed towards Shiva, some devotee like that. Yeah. So we can see this. So whenever our life is like this, when we are performing devotion service like this, when we are envious, proud, violent, angry, this could be in our family, this could be with our wife, with our husband. When we are exhibiting these symptoms, which we do certainly several occasions, we need to understand that our devotional service is actually contaminated by the mode of darkness. You want to say something?
That was my question. That most of these things which are there actually in performing the devotional service means in
take it close.
All these things, envious and being proud, getting angry, being violent, these things are there actually commonly faced.
Yes.
By, at least I can see that in myself. So, so what is the result of such kind of devotional service? Basically, that because it's in Tamogun only that we are doing this.
Yeah. So that's why the Daksha story is there. If one is not very careful about curtailing it and keeping it under control, then you see what happens. There is gross violence, fighting, killing, all that. So for example, the society of devotees also we can see. When somebody, see what happens is, all of us have certain conditioning, but then there are certain norms for behavior externally. At least if we adhere to those norms, even if that basic conditioning of all these things are there, things remain under control. Right? Like for example, we are all working together in ISKCON society. So, we may have all these things, but at least in our current stage, we have to consciously avoid manifesting them among devotees. If we don't do that, and if we allow it to come out, then the same result will be what the result was when Daksha and Shiva and all these people came together. Violence and craziness. Right? So I remember once Radhesham Prabhu was telling me that, there was some meeting, it seems, of some ISKCON leaders and everything. So it seems the topic became so heated and everybody started arguing back and forth so much. It was in Vrindavan. So Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, it seems, was kind of presiding over it. So it seems he suggested that next time when all of us meet, 3 days we will all loudly chant the holy name for 64 rounds or something. We will all sit and do, and then we will start our meeting. So that all our energy of shouting will come out in shouting the holy name. But it seems that proposal was not accepted. It became too difficult for everybody to do that. The point is that tendency is there in everybody. But the question is, are we really careful to ensure that it is curbed and it is, we consciously avoid manifesting that outside. At least that much we can do. Because immediately we cannot turn our mode too easily. That will take time. But civil behavior is something that we can learn and consciously avoid manifesting these things. So that's the least that one could do. And if one does not do that, then the repercussion is there to see. If you see ISKCON history also, after 1977 when ISKCON had, so many challenges and everything, somewhere in 1985 or 86, this Ravindra Swarup Prabhu is considered a very stalwart intellectual figure in ISKCON. He wrote actually a letter to all the ISKCON leaders and everyone worldwide, where he mentioned similar points. He said that actually all the problems we are facing is because of our low level of consciousness and everything. He started from there. Something very basic he started with. That how we are actually not advancing in Krishna consciousness. We are exhibiting symptoms of Rajoguna, Tamoguna very openly and violently, because of which we are fighting among each other and we have created such a chaos. So initially many people took that letter by surprise, saying that, hey, come on, how can you talk like this about so many so-called big people? But then slowly everybody understood that it does make sense, that we have to accept if something is really wrong and we have to rectify that. And then it went ahead. Yeah, so Daksha Prajapati is the example of this. Yeah.
One point I wanted to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing which I heard in this, that just like the 3 modes of nature which we usually see, it's whatever we see now in the manifestation, that is mixture of these modes.
Yeah.
So even the devotional service is actually mixture of these 3. These 3 are like red, blue and green.
Yeah.
So then there are something like 81 types.
Yeah, we are just coming to that.
So that is what, like, it becomes so predominance of it. It may not be that it will be completely zero, but then the predominance of this thing should not be there. Like
correct.
It's not like black and white compartmentalized like that.
Yeah, sure. So since he just mentioned this point, I'll add that here itself. So Prabhupada writes in one of these purports only down that there are 9 types of devotional service, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. 9 ways in which we perform devotional service. Each of these 9, Prabhupada says, can be done in Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. That means Shravanam can be done in Sattvagun, Shravanam in Rajogun, Shravanam in Tamogun. Kirtanam can be done in Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. Like that. So 9 3s are 27. And then these 27 again are mixed with the 3 modes. Because there is goodness, passion, goodness, ignorance. So you multiply them again by 3 and you get 81. That is how Kapila Dev puts forth 81 types of mixed devotional service. Right? So Gaur Gopal Prabhu once gave this example. Perhaps all of you must have heard it. But since, just to understand what could actually be, how any of these things could be done in Tamogun or something. He was saying that once when Radhanath Maharaj was in Juhu during some GBC midterm meetings, and he and I think Govind Prabhu were there with him. So it seems they decided to, they had some rounds pending, so they thought we'll go to the Juhu beach and chant. So the 3 of them went to Juhu beach to chant. They said when we went to Juhu beach to chant, when they sat and chanted for some time, after some time Maharaj told, it seems, that these 2 people that we can't chant here. Because everywhere there is Ajamil episode going on. In such an environment, chanting cannot be done. So they decided to walk back to the temple. Okay, so the point here is that even if you are with a great personality, whatever, but if the environment is tamasic, that affects your devotion service over there. Though devotional service itself is pure and you can anytime chant, but then that is not possible for sadhakas, right? Because when you are in an environment where people like Ajamil are walking around, you cannot focus on the chanting of the holy name, and there is a great amount of distraction. So he said that they decided to walk back to the temple and find some other place to do it. So the point is that these three consciously one has to avoid trying to fall prey to at least the two lower modes. Yeah. Now then there is the definition of devotional service and passion, which we will review once again. The worship of deities in the temple by separatists with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. So which is the example of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Very easy. Dhruva. So that's the next example, right? After Daksha, the stories of Dhruva. So what are the examples in the Bhagavatam on Dhruva section where you see that he performed devotional service in the mode of passion? The first thing is Dhruva went for devotional service for what? Went to perform devotional service to find a kingdom that is greater than his grandfather. That means he wanted something greater than Brahmaji, for which he started. So there itself, you are performing chanting and everything with that as the motive. So that's the starting point. And another thing which is there in Dhruva's story, which is also said as a reason why it was passion, when he started performing devotional service, it actually started choking other people. Because of which it is said that all the demigods, they could not breathe. Right? That comes in the 4th canto, 8th chapter in the end. That none of the demigods could breathe. They felt that because this personality had withdrawn all the air within himself. So basically, in passion what happens is, you don't give room for other people. That is also one characteristic of the mode of passion, where you want to control everything and you don't give much room for other people to exist. So because of which these demigods had a difficulty. So normally devotion service is not supposed to do that. So many other people also did devotion service, but it didn't mean that in all their cases also others could not breathe or they could not really function. It was not like that. They were doing their job. But in this case these people could not do. And that is considered one reason. Though of course in those purports, Prabhupada does not focus on this aspect, but I had heard it in a class of someone else that this is also one way you can understand that it was passion. And the third thing is, yeah.
No, I have a question on this.
Yeah.
So can you give a practical example how within this institution how someone performs in passion could choke on others? A very day-to-day example.
Oh yeah, so many.
Effect.
Yeah. See, because why not? I mean, if you are in any management in a temple, any activity we are trying to do, see, passion means what? Passion means a person wants enjoyment, fame and opulence. When you want these three things, there is immediately competition in the world. Because passion means competition for resources. So, everybody cannot get all these three things in the world. Right? You want name, fame, that has to be at the cost of someone else only. So, even within a spiritual organization, in devotional service, while rendering service, somebody may want to take all the credit and not give credit to someone else. Right? It can be in any domain. So many domains are there where we see this happening. Where sometimes, in fact, even it is sometimes seen that people are fearful. I mean, sometimes even devotees get fearful that their service will be taken away by someone else. They actually feel fearful. That maybe this person, especially sometimes even it happens with juniors, that they feel that this junior may, take over my service and I will not have my service. So many times it is seen. I cannot give examples with names or anything. That would be inappropriate, obviously. But yeah, there is insecurity. A person feels that this is my service. Now this person has come. He is junior to me, but he is more smart. He may take this up. He may take over the whole thing. Then what will I do? That insecurity comes. That's all coming from passion only. Otherwise it will not come. Simple thing in house, you see this, right? Like mother-in-law, when the daughter-in-law is very efficient, she feels a little insecure. That's a simple home example, which is there in a temple atmosphere also, in devotion service also, where you may feel that some other junior may take over your thing, or some other equal devotee or someone else is very smart and he will do much better than tumhara kya hoga. तुम्हारा enjoyment fame का क्या होगा? Who will ask for you? हाँ, Indra of course, yeah.
As a leader, if I drive a project, that is inconvenience to some other devotees.
Yeah, so you start choking. So you want to take all space. You don't want others to grow. So you just push everybody down. Right? And then of course later we see with this Dhruva, with those yakshas also, where he picked up, he just went into the mode of passion. Where for one yaksha killing his brother, he started massacring the entire host of them. Which is pretty similar to, in some way, to, you see some communal rights or something, right? One Sikh murdered Indira Gandhi, then all the Sikhs are killed, and something like that actually. Which is, yeah, in some way. But again, there is passion because he actually came out to fight, and he was very aggressive over there. So, right, Swayambhu Manu had to advise him to stop fighting and all that. So that's all examples of devotional service in the mode of passion. Of course, one thing we have to please understand, Dhruva Maharaj went beyond all that. Right? He went beyond all that, he went back to Godhead. Yes, he has gone back. But that was how he started. See, everybody has a path which they start with, and then they finally succeed. So the Bhagavatam is giving all these examples in order to teach us that this is what it is. You want to say something? Yeah.
When he was fighting with Yakshas, that was after he got the darshan of Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
Then how we can say that he was still in mode of passion, because he had the darshan of Lord.
Yeah, so that's what, right? So devotional service is not something that way there are even examples. If you see in the 11th canto, there is the example of Pururava, who has darshan of Lord Vishnu. Of course, that's a little more drastic. Vishnu is coming and asking, what do you want? He's saying, I want Urushi. And he gives him Urvashi, and so you know that story, right? See, so one thing is that devotional service is something, there is no magic in devotional service. As in, it is not necessarily, and devotional service is always it's a continuous process. Like, someone said this, that you can never say that I surrendered once. You cannot say that. It's an ongoing process. You have to keep doing that. Right? Devan Maharaj said, yeah. You cannot say that I surrendered once. Long back I surrendered nicely and I chanted once very nicely, sincerely I chanted. Almost tears came from my eyes. You can't say that. So that has to be happening always. That's pure devotional service.
Because since you have chanted sincerely in the Vrindavan, that's
Yeah. Yeah, so you'll go back, but then you may cause some problems in the middle. So that is there. See, there is no problem in going back to Godhead. Wo to jaoge baad mein. Like he's saying that Prabhupada said that once since you chanted sincerely, you'll go back to God. That you may go back. But in the middle, you'll cause some trouble and then go. So that is the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Hare Krishna is also there. Like, even though you want to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Hare Krishna, there's so many other. Yeah. You can be with the Lord and still be completely off. Okay. The third thing is devotional service when devotee. So this example of this is who? Who's the example of this? After Dhruva, who is the next major story in the 4th canto? No, in the 4th canto. Prithu. Correct? So there is Daksha, there is Dhruva, there is Prithu. Why is Prithu considered an example of this? Because 2 reasons. One is he was performing Ashwamedha Yagyas. Right? So they are all various rituals and correct? So he was doing that of course for the pleasure of the Lord. But he was doing that. And he was doing the 100th one. And we all know that Indra was causing a lot of problem. And finally he was about to kill Indra. And that time Brahmaji comes and tells him that please don't do this. Because this Indra is also a very important person in the universal system of management. And there is no point. So please be satisfied with 99. In fact, very interesting that Brahma doesn't want to guide Indra. He tells Prithu because he feels that perhaps this fellow will listen. That fellow, a little more tougher case. So he tells him. Just like sometimes we see, when we have 2 children and they are fighting, sometimes generally the boy or the girl, whoever is listening more, we tell them, jara samajh ke le lo, wo to aise hi hai. At least, you please try to understand. Generally, this is what we tell the elder child, saying that you are a little more grown up, that the younger one is like this only, he is naughty, he'll do all mischief. You only somehow tolerate it. So it's a standard advice given. So similarly, he advises, and for the sake of cooperation, Prithu Maharaj agrees. And cooperation is considered a very important characteristic that is manifest in Sattva Guna. And that is why his devotional service is considered in Sattva Guna. Right? So it is interesting that in this purport, Prabhupada talks about Varnashram as an example of cooperation. So why he talks an example of Varnashram is because the whole system of Varnashram is based on cooperation. That means if you see the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they all actually cooperate. So if we see the ideal model of Varnashram, like as explained by Bhishma to Yudhishthira, etc., the Brahman has knowledge, but he does not have power, he does not have money. The Kshatriya has what? Power, but he doesn't have knowledge, he is not really the expert at that, and neither he has a lot of wealth. Whereas a Vaishya has wealth, but he may not have so much of power, and neither will he be in knowledge. And whereas a Shudra, he is in rendering service. Now if you see very carefully, so this is also very interesting. This is something very special about the Indian system as compared with the European monarchy. Where in the Indian system it is said that Kshatriya, the kingdom that he has, he can never divide it among his children. Do you know that? Please try to understand this. This is there in our scripture. That is, a Kshatriya cannot divide the kingdom among his children. A Vaishya can divide his property among his children. You understood this? So if a Vaishya has 100 cows and 10 acres of zameen and he has 3 children, he can divide it among his 3 children. But a Kshatriya, he has a huge kingdom, he cannot make the kingdom into 3 parts and give his 3 sons. He cannot do that. Please try to understand. It's a very interesting fact actually. The reason why it is like this is because the Kshatriya doesn't own that property itself. He has the power, but he is not considered the owner of the kingdom. That is why many people say that Bhishma's decision to divide that kingdom between Yudhishthira and Duryodhan, when Yudhishthira comes back after the marriage with Draupadi, was considered a problematic decision. Awaaz nahi aa raha? Right? So because Bhishma only proposed it, right? Let's divide the kingdom so that the 2 cousins can be happy. That decision itself is considered controversial from the Shastric perspective, from the perspective of Bhishma himself later. He did that as an emergency measure, but that's a problem because that is not owned by him. Correct? And in fact, Bhishma in one place to Yudhishthira Maharaj, he says the Paricharyaka, that means the service rendered by the Shudra, is also a representation of Vishnu. That means the Shudra, when he very faithfully renders service to his master, that faithful service, because please remember, among the 4 Varnas, faithfulness is there only in a Shudra. The first 3 don't have faithfulness as a cat. Like for example, Brahman. Brahman is not famous for faithfulness. If a Brahman is in one kingdom and the Brahman doesn't get along with the king, he will walk off to another kingdom. He will say that I don't get along with you, I am going there. Kshatriya also, faithfulness is not there. That's why we see before the battle of Kurukshetra, they are announcing, jisko bhi problem hai, you can change your side. And Yuyutsu comes here, somebody goes there, all that thing happens. Oh, Vaishya, he is interested in money. Jidhar paisa milega, udhar jayega. He is not concerned about faithfulness. Who is most faithful? A Shudra is most faithful. And that faithfulness is considered a representation of Vishnu. I don't know how many of you have this experience, but at least I had in my childhood. We had one servant at home in our ancestral home. This lady actually took care of the delivery. That means when my grandfather was born, she was there helping my great-grandmother in his delivery. When my mother was born, she was only there taking care of the delivery. And even when I was born, she was there. Because she served in the home for 60 years. From the age of 14 to 75, she was a servant at home. So when she initially joined, my grandfather was being born. So, she's to my great-grandmother. So she took care of that delivery till my delivery and till my mother's delivery. Sorry, not my delivery. Mother's delivery when I was born. And even until I was like 10-year-old. That time my grandfather was 60 when his 60th birthday was celebrated. Till that time, this servant was serving. And I remember very clearly that in my village in Kerala, every home had such a servant who was like serving for 40 years, 50 years. In recent times when I go and see, I ask my uncles and all, how long? Servants change 6 months, 8 months. We can't blame them. The whole system has only changed. Everybody know. We have not, so the faithfulness of the Shudra has not been encouraged. It has not been rewarded. Money is the whole thing. So somebody pays a little more. Perhaps some of you also may have had the experience of seeing servants who served for generations, right? Many decades they served, isn't it? Yeah, so it was there in India. Somehow we were fortunate to see that. I don't think our children will even get to see an example like that. They can only hear. And 2 generations down, they will not even believe it. This is all nonsense. Because what we saw, so we know what it meant. We saw servants like that who were at home for 60 years serving the same family. And they were like a family member actually. In many ways, they were very close actually. You know, but they did. But their children, and they did not. And so we understand from that. So, you know, this corruption is very recent actually. But because Varnashram was there in India till even recently in some way. Right. So Prabhupada mentions cooperation as an example. Why cooperation is an example of Sattva Guna is because the Vedic culture encourages non-competitiveness. That means this whole idea of... so again, this is something which as devotees, at least in our own society, we can reflect and see how to resolve that issue because you know, this challenge is always there when we are raising our children and when we are having our families to enter a mode of competition with others. That means, I mean, it can even be that, you know, this one's child is performing so much devotional service, so my child also should do. So we tell our child, see, arre, that one, see, is chanting 4 rounds or 8 rounds. Why are you not doing? You know, so it may start from there, but on every level, you know, the level of skills, hobbies, values, everything. It we sometimes subtly enter a domain of competition in terms of thinking that, you know, because that means this world being a relative world, you know, material world is sometimes called as a relative world because relativity means we always, you know, make decisions or do things based on what others are doing. Correct? This is generally in English what we call as mob psychology. If somebody does something, everybody wants to do that. Nobody thinks whether I really need to do it. Just because others are doing, I also have to do. You know, then that becomes a social pressure also in some ways. Right? It becomes a social pressure in some ways. That everybody is having a, you know, such a house, such a facility. So even I should have it. And that, so what happens is, so, you know, there is this one terminology which is used that of self-governance. Self-governance means ideally one should think only for oneself, what is actually good for me, I will do it and I am happy in that. And for that one requires what? Sattva Gun. That is actually coming from Sattva. You know, where there is no such competition. But when that is not there, when the devotional service is primarily in the mode of passion, then you have to get ahead. And you have to get ahead even in the domains of devotional service and everything else as well. And then the after effects of that are also there. You know, the after effects of passion are there. So that is something to handle. Any comment on this point? Yeah.
In the present day world.
Yeah, keep it on.
This Sattva Guna either mostly in education and your profession.
It's not there at all.
It's not there at all.
Absolutely. Outside world is extremely Rajasic or Tamasic only.
Yeah, because we are in this materialist world. If at all you are doing your professional activities, your kids are going for education.
Yeah.
Naturally, day one we will start with competition.
Yes.
Otherwise, you cannot be on the go.
Yeah.
But how you can say that we have to be in Sattva Gun rather than passion? Because I have to start with the competition itself.
We have to start with competition only, right?
Yeah, 10th class, intermediate, or professional with this many papers.
Yeah, so of course we have to do that. So we have to take the repercussion also. Correct. We should not be surprised why the repercussion is coming, why that pain is coming. See, passion and ignorance give pain at the end of the day, right? That pain also we have to bear happily, that I chose it. Fine, no problem. We have to do it, but then that will also come. That means, see, it's a science, right? When what do we call as a science? Science is some system. If it is done in a particular way, that is what will happen. We have to accept it. So that will be there. That's at one level. At the other level is, you have to be consciously at least aware of what's happening with you. That would at least perhaps in some way minimize or control the damage. You don't get carried away completely by it. Correct? But that's, it may be unavoidable as you say. In the corporate world, one end is unavoidable. But then that's how it is. So we need to at least understand that. Because it is very difficult to compartmentalize the life also. It doesn't happen. Na? So, yeah. Any other point? Keep it on only, no problem.
Prabhuji, actually, I was just contemplating yesterday only that in our childhoods, like even when we were grown up, when we were studying, we did not actually look at what others are actually doing.
Yeah.
We were mostly following this that, we prepare nicely.
Yeah.
And whatever is the result, we will get it.
Yeah.
We don't care for others.
Perfect.
But here, I was just seeing that, like with this WhatsApp and so many messages coming, everybody engaged in different things. And I was really thinking that, like to keep up to date with everything, like you have to be in track with what is going on here, that group, this group, and there's so many messages coming. And I was
deleting the messages also is a very big, even just doing this itself is a big job, My wife and children tease me a lot on that. This scrolling on WhatsApp, none of them are on WhatsApp, so yeah.
So is it this that this is the effect of this current society and this environment which is become passionate?
Yeah, the environment is extremely passionate.
And this means that we have to exert even more force now to actually come out of this, because we were not like that.
Same example of batata vada. That 150 calories we have got, we are taking it regularly, so we have to burn also. Yeah, it is there.
So, but we actually don't want it, but we are somehow being forced to actually take it.
Yes.
So, in some way, we think that there is an advantage, and in some we know there are so many disadvantages also. But in some way, we have to accept it, and we are aware that there is going to be a problem with this sort of thing. So,
yeah, agreed. Everything agreed, 100%. Braj Bihari Prabhu gave a seminar in Mayapur on this topic, dealing with WhatsApp and internet and email. So I want to first follow what he said for some time, and then I'll give the seminar. I heard the seminar, but till now I have not followed anything that he said. So I'm not going to speak on that. ILS में अच्छे से बताया था उन्होंने. So let me see if I can at least implement something in my life. Then I will share it. No use only. I'm not following only that. A very controlled way of handling this, in short. But how to do that he had told. But yeah.
This passion and confidence is real. It's continuously causing a problem also, because
yeah,
you're always under anxiety, you may be very best, but someone else will come who will be better than you, and because you are in that mode of showing off that you are better, you're always so
under anxiety
after because we are hearing so much knowledge, so we should somehow or other be conscious of that fact and not get into it. Otherwise, now like WhatsApp, college time we had some friends. Now that group is there. School time, and everybody is trying to just show off. Something or other that
I'm smart.
I'm smart.
I'm enjoying life. You're not.
So yeah, we can very easily understand that this is
correct.
thing.
Yeah, understand.
Just sit back and think for.
Maybe one solution is, very difficult, but this is also there in the Shastra, that you consciously engage passion and then you come out of it. You understood, right? So that means like the sages and all, if you see, when they wanted to have a child or something, they had to consciously develop passion. That means they had to engage passion at a particular time and revert back to their natural state. Easily said than done, but this is, it's very difficult. But that's what it is. If that's perhaps one only way or whatever. Anybody has any comment?
You were telling about Brahmana has only knowledge, but we see that there are many incidents like King Vena's case also. We see that Brahmanas they also
that type of power they would use only in extreme emergency. It is not that they would use that very normally, Maro isko pito, not like that. That is like Vena, what he did, my God. They were waiting still. They were hoping that this chap will improve. After a long time, when they saw he's not changing only, then they decided, no, now we have to. That's like emergency. That's in an emergency they may exhibit. That's always there. That is apad dharma. That is not their natural dharma.
And the other thing is like Kshatriyas, we see that these Pandavas, they asked for 5 villages.
Yeah.
So the reason given was that Kshatriya being a Kshatriya, they need something to rule because they are Kshatriyas.
Yeah.
So in that case, but you said that the kingdom cannot be divided. So how?
Yeah. Kingdom cannot be divided means actually the whole kingdom was theirs only. But because this fellow is not giving, they said at least give us something. But that was a compromised solution only, right? That first solution only was compromise. Bhishma very divided the kingdom between Yudhishthir Maharaj and Duryodhan, saying that you take Khandaprastha, you take Khandaprastha and Hastinapur. That itself was not correct from the understanding of what a Kshatriya is. That's why the kingdom can never be divided. But that was, they was ready for a compromise. Yeah, it was like that. They were ready for a compromise. They were giving up their whole rights on the entire, they had the service of ruling the kingdom, right? Saying, okay, you give us at least this part to rule. It was not in terms of possession. See, please remember, this is different. Like, other than India, nowhere else in the world this concept is there, that the king is not the owner. If you carefully observe, when Lord Ram is interacting with Vasishtha during various yagyas, when the Pandavas are interacting, the same concept comes again and again. The king is not the ruler. He tells that you all are only the ruler. Dasharath Maharaj, when Vishwamitra comes, he puts him on the throne itself. And he's sitting down and saying, oh, everything is yours. Please tell me, how should I serve you? And he genuinely means it. That's not a show. It is not like somebody comes and says, no, he genuinely feels that I am just a servant over here. I am not actually the owner of this place. Yeah.
Even Dronacharya was doing Apadharma.
Apadharma only. That is not regular dharma.
Sharing knowledge. Even the military is a knowledge.
Yeah, military is knowledge only, but then he was also a fighter. Na? He was not just doing the pure job of a Brahmana. He was a mixed. He was fighter as well. He was not just a teacher of archer. Obviously, you have to be a fighter yourself. He was like a mixed thing.
Because this, when it comes to military arts, it comes in mode of passion.
Yeah, of course.
Right, na?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. So he was not purely doing Brahmana profession. He was mixed. And that was fine. He wanted to do it that way. Yeah, so we'll go ahead. Madhesh's question.
Haribur, that time when you were talking about social media, there is one course in Vada. Social media detox. For 8 days. Detox.
Detox.
Yeah, for 8 days course and evening for limited time you are given access. That also under supervision.
Really?
Yeah. I was going through that. There was an app of.
Oh, really? Interesting. Good. Maybe some of us will have to attend that. Social media detox. Good. Okay. So then Kapila, yeah.
Just commenting, I heard in one of the lecture, Jaidat Maharaj was asked while he was in near Govardhan for 3 months. And one devotee asked him the secret of his absorption and all that in devotional service. Secret of his absorption in devotional service. So Jaidat Maharaj replied, no news. No news. So he was not able to understand that just by having no news, how can one advance in devotional service? So Jaidat Maharaj told 3 months remain here, come to know.
Yeah, so that brings us to the next topic. This whole news concept, actually, this is directly from a class of Govind Prabhu. He says that spectator syndrome is the syndrome of Tamoguna. So please note, spectator syndrome, he says, is a syndrome of Tamoguna. Spectator syndrome means what? Watch what others are doing. That means, at a very gross level, spectator syndrome means, like in cricket stadiums we see thousands of people have come to see what others are playing, right? Or when, like, there was this thing that some children in Chowpatty had, it seems, many years back, that gone and asked Radhanath Maharaj a question, whether we can watch cricket on TV. So Maharaj advised them, why don't you play cricket? At least it will help you a little bit, you will remain a little fit. Why do you want to simply sit and watch what others are playing? Right? So the point is, spectator syndrome is considered Tamoguna. Can anybody tell me why? What is the thing in spectatorship which makes it Tamoguna? Inertia, yes. Inaction. Inertia is considered tamoguna. Right? Inertia is considered tamoguna. So spectator syndrome is considered tamoguna. So please remember, spectator syndrome means a lot. It doesn't just refer to what we understand spectator in terms of like a cricket match. I was hearing again from someone that's why this whole concept of clapping after a lecture, if you see very carefully, this is a spectator concept. The spectator concept, see, there is a psychology behind it. The psychology of clapping is what you perform, I will watch and enjoy. That's the psychology of a spectator. You understood? The psychology of a spectator is that I am not going to do anything. मैं कुछ नहीं करने वाला. नाचने गाने का काम तुम करो. मैं ताली बजाऊंगा एंड में. मेरा मनोरंजन होना चाहिए बस. I want to enjoy the show. So that is why it is said that in a very traditional Indian system, generally speaking, even in classes and all that, if you generally see, like, when generally, some sannyasi or some great personality is speaking, at the end, the concept of clapping generally, which is there, it is actually not there, if you honestly look at it. Of course, now what has happened is some things we, kind of dovetail, or, we say that, okay, our gratitude we are expressing in the form of clapping, and many times it's true also. Sometimes we also see that when some Maharajas give some ecstatic class, everyone really claps thunderously at the end, where they want to show their love and affection. So maybe we can excuse this particular concept in that particular situation. But in general, this is considered part of spectator syndrome. One second, I think I'm running out of battery here. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so spectator syndrome means this, where, that means spectator syndrome is inertia, where I don't want to do anything. So that's why even this, what you were saying, reading? So these things generally come under spectatorship, because we are not doing anything. We are simply in an inert fashion watching what others are doing. So that is considered generally tamasic. And so even in devotional service also, so Govind Prabhu was explaining here that sometimes just sitting and trying to comment or think about or comment on what other devotees are doing. He's doing like this, he's doing like that. That is also coming under spectatorship only. Where I myself will not do anything much. I myself will not do much, but then I will simply try to comment on what others are doing. So, so this is another interesting thing to note. Spectatorship as tamoguna. Yeah. Yeah, say no, once again. Actually, hearing, the process of Shravanam is actually, there is something called active hearing. Active hearing is, active hearing doesn't necessarily mean interactive, where you are always asking questions. Even if in our mind we are very seriously deliberating and cross-questioning and trying to understand exactly what's happening, that is also coming under the category of active hearing. That's not spectatorship. Spectatorship, please remember, basically is, a very laid back thing. Just like, a person is, आदमी कैसे टीवी के सामने बैठते हैं generally, कुछ देखने के लिए, न्यूज़ देखने के लिए या कुछ क्रिकेट मैच देखने के लिए, एकदम relaxed. शो चलने दो, हम बस मजा करेंगे. We are not going to involve ourselves too much into it. We want pleasure, that's all. Come on, entertain us. Please remember, even hearing can come under that if the person has come to think in terms of what enjoyment I am going to get in the lecture. Like, very neophyte people, or many times there are Bhagavad Saptas in India, right? Where the person is mainly there as an entertainer. सबको हंसाने का ही काम है उसका. और लोग आए हंसने के लिए, तो लोग बोलते भी है क्या प्रभु जी, या समटाइम्स इन स्कूल आल्सो वी मे फील समटाइम्स क्या ज्यादा जोक रहे हमारा प्रभु जी ले आज मजा नहीं आया लेक्चर में. So sometimes it is likely that we hear a class also with a spectator mood. So please remember, spectator, it is not, see, as I said in the beginning, everything in the Vedic domain is state specific. It just depends on how you are. So that's how it is. So you may be a spectator if that's how your intention. But generally, Shravanam is not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be active hearing, right? So it's clearly different. It's clearly of a different class. Yeah, you want to say something? Just use the mic. You'll have to increase that because of the noise. You all are finding it a little difficult, na? Maybe you come this side because what's happening is otherwise others will not hear. Yeah.
I think it
may
be an off topic also, but I got this question. Now recently 2 years back the government has changed and so many new things are coming in news and everything, you know, wherever we go, this was not done correctly, now India, Pakistan. So, you know, some or other we are getting too much involved. So is that also spectatorship because we want to know what is happening, what was wrong, though it is not concerned with our day-to-day?
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I agree with you. See, one thing is there again, because kind of in many ways you are in the world, some such things are unavoidable also. But we'll have to keep it very much under control. At least that much I can say. See, one thing I personally realized, at least this news reading or seeing on the internet, if we can do that just once in a day, that will be good. You know, that is one principle we can always try to see. See, nowadays what happens when we use our computer or laptop for so many things. We use it to mail, to WhatsApp, to read lectures, to read books. Correct? It's a multi-purpose device. You know, it's a multi-purpose device. Or to read news, to transact some shares, to do so many things. Generally, at least my observation has been like this. Whenever I try to read news continuously in the day, it has increased passion in the system. You know, it has actually. So, if we can at least do that, if we have to do that anyway, of course, and I would say that certainly everybody will have to do at least to some degree. If one is satisfied by not knowing any news, then that's also fine. I mean, if someone says, I don't even want to know whether Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister or Manmohan Singh only is ruling India. That's okay. I mean, there could be a very simple devotee who says, "Mujhe farak hi nahi padta." Like Prabhupada told that example of someone in Bangladesh who, when the British was gone, so it seems somebody told actually this old farmer that we have become independent now. So there is a celebration. Aren't you participating? Independence what? The British left. Who? British? Who are they? So it seems this gentleman did not know only that the British were there in India for the last 200 years. You know, that's a extreme height of detachment from news. So he was just doing his farming and very happy where he was. He didn't know the British went and Nehru has become Prime Minister. Or Jinnah has become President of Pakistan at that time. But I think that at least only once if we read, that much at least we could do. I generally I'm trying to follow that. Half successfully, I would say. You know, just once at 4 o'clock in the evening, I generally try to log in and see some news. So, that time. Something like that. Otherwise, it will become very difficult actually. Otherwise, passion affects us too much. Because there is no end to it.
Because you are telling that we are using these devices for many purposes. I have seen some devotees using mobile for chanting.
Chanting?
There is beats. There is an app.
My God! That means there is an app to chant, to do like this.
Mala is there, Prabhuji.
There is a virtual mala.
Mala, virtual. You will feel that beats. Beats. No, beats.
No, I don't think you can do that because our vow is we will chant on our beats, right? No, one second. When we take initiation vow, what is our vow? We will chant 16 rounds on beats, and I think that is not virtual beats. That is physical beats, right?
Whole Babu told that during the lecture, he observed one person he was doing like this.
Yeah, so
extremely in other countries, no, they'll be doing.
I just asked him.
Yeah, I know.
This is also like beats. So he went on.
Beat का जो आता है photo आता है. So माला का ना one.
Yeah, नीचे से just like we do.
This is the height of impersonal culture.
108 पे टंग मेरे पास नहीं है पर मैंने
अच्छा माला वो तो टंग है. I think that's an unnecessary invention. I don't see any benefit of it. Anyway, Tulsi Mala is required, right? I mean, what are we substitute now? It's a height of impersonalism. Oh, he's showing that here. No, this is counter. This is not that what they are talking of. They are talking about bead only. You can keep doing like this. Slide over there, Mala over there. Okay, I think we'll go ahead. There are many things to cover here. Okay, so yeah, so Prabhupada after explaining these three types of devotional service, yeah, so this is a very, after explaining three types of devotional service, Kapila Dev explains, Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nirgunasya Udahritam Ahetuki Avyavahita Yabhakti Purushottame. Very basically says, the manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. In sum and substance, what it means is, only when your bhakti is beyond the three modes, it acquires the characteristic of ahaituki apratihata. So when we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam 1st canto chapter 2, ahaituki apratihata ye atma suprasiddhati, that is applicable to pure bhakti, which Kapila Dev says over here happens only when you have gone beyond three modes. Then only you can render devotional service that is completely ahetuki and completely apratihata. Till that time you cannot render that ahetuki apratihata bhakti. So let's remember why, for example, we cannot render ahetuki apratihata bhakti. Why our bhakti is always having bada, and why, yeah, it is being done for various things. Because we are just not on this platform. Right? So until one is on this platform, it cannot happen. So one thing Govind Prabhu says, this is again directly from a class of his that I heard, where he says that sudden Krishna consciousness is an imagination. He says sudden, that means this whole concept that, you know, suddenly one day I became Krishna conscious. I became purified. He said, this doesn't happen only. Even if you hear it in a class, even if it is mentioned in some scripture, please understand it to be a marketing. The scripture is also trying to encourage you, कि तुमको भी hope है, इतना fallen condition में भी आ जाओ. You know, but he's saying there is nothing like sudden Krishna consciousness. So basically he talks about this in the context of Vrindavan atmosphere. So basically in the 10th canto chapter 20, as I told earlier, there is a description of climate in Vrindavan. So such a beautiful point. Generally, you know, many times we think that, you know, when Krishna came to the world, climate must have been very good in Vrindavan. Like now, how is Vrindavan? If you see, summer, how is Vrindavan? You know, it's extremely hot. If you know anybody who stays in Vrindavan in summer, extremely hot, pasina nikalta hai. And winter, extremely cold. It chills your bone literally. Okay, extreme climate. So the question is, when Krishna was there, was the climate different? We generally imagine that when Krishna is there, everything is automatically very nice. But if you see the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not like that. It is said that the summer at that time was also hot, but the Vrajavasis had actually worked hard to preserve the environment in such a way that there will be a lot of greenery. So, for example, he quotes that, you know, the tradition in Indian farming system, for example, is to ensure that 1/10 of your land is always having water. That means you use for water harvesting. So that means you really work hard to ensure that you have stored enough water. You work hard to ensure that you have enough greenery and grass everywhere. When somebody has done that, then even when it is hot, it is bearable over there. When there are good trees, everything. You understood the point? So that means, so in that context, he says, Krishna consciousness is something that you have to actually work to achieve. Even that climate of Vrindavan is not magical. Vrindavan is situated at that latitude wherever in India, and according to the laws of nature, whatever heat and cold will come over there. But it depends how human beings preserve that environment to actually have a very conducive environment over there. So similarly, he says in our devotional life also, there is nothing like suddenly becoming pure devotee. ऐसा होता ही नहीं. In fact, ऐसा हुआ, so he says there is a severe problem. He says you cannot handle it. So that is why we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita there is a story of that fisherman who is touched by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That fisherman, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in his net, he actually becomes like possessed. And when Swarup Damodar meets him and tells him, "Arey, you have received love of God," he says, "Forget love of God, I can't feed my family now. With this kind of consciousness that has suddenly come into my system, how will I work? How will I continue to do fishing? How will I maintain my family? The point is, he had received sudden Krishna consciousness, but because he was not ready for it, he couldn't accept it. He was saying, I don't want this. मेरे को नहीं चाहिए. I want to be a normal fisherman only. What has happened to me? Why I am suddenly feeling like this on touching this sannyasi? So the whole point is that sudden Krishna consciousness does not happen. It is always you have to work towards it. And work towards it basically means work towards it to see how to avoid the lower modes and go higher, so that the quality of devotional service is enhanced. Correct. So there are some more examples before we come to this point. In fact, there are many topics to cover. I'll just go a little bit ahead quickly. Talking about 3 modes, one more wonderful example that I came across is that like in any traditional Indian music system, if you see, there are 3 components. Like if any of you have heard Carnatic music or even Shastriya Sangeet, there is the vocal, the person who is singing. There is one stringed instrument like veena, violin, one thing is there, and there is one drum instrument, the tabla, mridanga, one drum instrument. Generally 3 instruments are there in Indian system. These 3 also stand for 3 modes of material nature. So Lord Shiva, his instrument is the damru, the drum, which is standing for tamogun. Why it stands for tamogun? It is said because a drum or a mridanga has samhara shakti. It always tries to stop the kirtan. So if you generally see that the drum has the property of being able to stop the kirtan. You know, the drummer has a very easy ability to stop the kirtan. He has the control of stopping everything. When he goes to one particular beat, then the singer understands that the next thing he has to sing is Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. It's over basically. This guy has gone into that mode actually of stopping it. So that's representation of that. The violin or the string instrument is a representative of passion, which is also possessed by Brahmaji or his wife Saraswati. Saraswati is on a veena. Brahmaji's instrument is a violin. So that's passion. And the vocal is a representative of Sattvagun, which is actually the function of Lord Vishnu. You know? So the point is, even here we see that the modes, the point is the modes are everywhere and they are just unavoidable. So one point which I would like to take maybe on this, the second part of this whole thing is that the 3 modes which are there, one thing is very clear, that as long as we are in the world, we are going to be repeatedly affected by it. So the question is, how do we respond? So that's the next and the last part of today's discussion. That means, how do we respond when we get affected by lower modes? Because it is a fact that other than Narayan, nobody is perfect in the world. Nobody is perfect, meaning everybody will be subject to the 3 modes, the lower modes at some time or the other, repeatedly. Even if you are situated in devotional service and we are struggling, they will keep attacking. So the question is how you respond. So let us see some examples in the Bhagavatam on this and have some discussion on that. So I'll take you ahead now to some sections. We'll see some 2-3 stories actually, and then we'll come to it. So the first thing is that when we are affected by the lower modes, we are forced to behave in some ways. Now that's unavoidable. Now please try to understand. That means when a person has entered a lower mode, uske paas choice nahi rehta. He has to act like that. That means the free will of the body also reduces when you are in some particular situation. So the point is, at that time, how we respond is the question. How we respond is the question. So we will see some examples. 2-3 examples we'll see. Then it will become clear. So first we will take the example of Lord Shiva, 8:12:37. So this is a section from the 8th canto. We are taking one from the 8th, 9th and then one from the 10th. So Lord Shiva, we see that when Mohini Murti comes during the Samudra Manthan Leela, Lord Shiva desires to see Mohini Murti. Because he hears from the demigods that she was very beautiful. So he thinks that anyway I will not get disturbed by any beautiful woman. So I want to see her. And Lord Vishnu thinks, I will manifest a special form of Mohini Murti only for Lord Shiva. That means the Mohini Murti that came in front of Lord Shiva dancing with playing the ball was much more beautiful and was a different form than the other Mohini Murti who came during the distribution of the nectar. This was even special beauty, especially to attract Lord Shiva's senses. So we know that when this Mohini Murti comes and she starts playing with the ball, Shiva starts running behind her. And then we know that how Mohini Murti takes Lord Shiva through all the sages who are actually doing tapasya to Lord Shiva, who are sitting and praying to Lord Shiva to control their senses. Through them Mohini Murti is going. And Shiva is also running behind her. So basically the point is that Shiva gets affected at that time by that lower mode. Okay. So I'm just telling that what it is. Now if you see this, now I'm just going to the last part of the Bhagavatam where this whole pastime is there. Following Mohini, Lord Shiva went everywhere, near the shores of the rivers and lakes, near the mountains, near the forests, near the gardens, and wherever there lived great sages. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of kings, when Lord Shiva had fully discharged the semen, at that time he could see how he himself had been victimized by the illusion created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he restrained himself from any further Maya. Thus Lord Shiva could understand his position and that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has unlimited potencies. Having reached this understanding, he was not at all surprised by the wonderful way Lord Vishnu had acted upon him. Now this is the point. Seeing Lord Shiva unagitated and unashamed, Lord Vishnu was very pleased. Thus he resumed his original form and spoke as follows. Now let's just try to focus on this. See, there are two adjectives used in the context of Lord Shiva here. One is that he was unagitated and one is that he was unashamed. So let's remember, so when the lower mode affects us, there are two types of response. One response is to be completely shameless. You understood? Completely shameless. So just like we see in the modern world that people always say that why to be hypocritical? Jo hai so hai. Right? Right? That's what modern people say. Just be completely open about everything. Whenever you feel like doing something, do. There is nothing to feel bad about it. That's what everybody is saying now very openly, right? That means there is no need to feel bad that you are drinking, you are womanizing. For none of these things, you need to have any shame. Correct? That's the modern propaganda in general. That's like one extreme of behavior, where the lower modes are affecting you and you are completely shameless about it. And you feel that, it doesn't affect me at all. Or you feel that, okay, I don't care about it. It is like that. I'll keep doing it. And, I'm not going to feel bad about it. Correct? People take that kind of stance. Another kind of stance is a suicidal stand, where one feels too guilty and one feels that I have now no choice only for reformation. I have completely sinned, I am completely fallen. You understood? Which is again, if you see the stand of many religions, where they say that, like the Abrahamic world and all says that every person is born a sinner. So nobody can redeem himself. So that means they make a person very guilty actually of his mistake. You understood? So that's again a traditional approach, where you have done a mistake means you are finished now. Narag only. Like we see that whoever that one Brahmin was there who went to Subuddhi Rai. He said that you are finished now, nothing, no choice only for you. Drink, ghee, die, next life hope you will be born in a Brahmin's family and then you may get delivered. These are two opposite stands in general. Now if you see the response of Lord Shiva, so the point is, being affected by the modes is going to happen in the world, even though no matter how much we try. That's why these examples are there. So let's understand why Bhagavatam gives so many examples. Like if you see, sometimes many people ask also, why such examples are given in the Bhagavatam? Like sometimes you see the example of Brihaspati. That Brihaspati, that story, right? Brihaspati's wife and that moon god, he has a child, and then finally they go to Brahmaji and asking whose child it is. Then Brahmaji talks to Brihaspati's wife Tara in confidence, and then she says actually it is moon god's child only. Then he says, oh okay, the child is the moon god. So when we read these stories in Bhagavatam, one may feel that how such stories are presented, because that is a reality. The reality is that in this world, time and again people will get affected by the modes of nature. Correct? That is going to happen. But the question is how you respond to it. How you respond to it. So if you see Shiva's response, on one hand, he never felt ashamed that it happened, because he could appreciate the Vishnu Maya, that the Maya of Vishnu is so powerful, who am I in front of that? So he understood that yes, I have, I got bewildered by it. And on the other hand, it is not that he continued his illusion. You understood? He immediately went back to his original state. He went back to his original. That's what it means by saying that he became unagitated. Right? So if you see the next part of prayers, this whole thing, this characteristic comes up, where Vishnu is also praising Shiva, and Shiva also becomes because if you see, in one way there is so much reason to feel shame. He went through the ashram of his sages, his wife was there, everything was there, in front of all of them this happened. Correct? And it was like a public demonstration of what happened. But at the same time, he immediately controlled himself and he went back into his previous state. So this is one characteristic which we can all learn from, that even, so again, please remember, this is not a license to fall or anything, obviously, but what it means is that even when someone gets affected by the lower modes, one has to work towards reinstating himself very quickly. And one has to strive hard for that. Yeah, well, you cannot commit suicide, you can't do that. What are you going to do? You can't say that I'll kill yourself, but so you have to fight. At the same time, you have to understand that yes, this is the energy of Vishnu. I can't play with the energy of Vishnu. Vishnu's energy is very powerful. You can't meddle with it and think that nothing will happen to you. Correct? Like see, now for example, all of us are very sober right now. We are sitting together, we are having a discussion from Bhagavatam. But it's obvious that suppose if somebody goes to the internet and sees something, which is not right, then one immediately gets agitated. It is not that just because you have practiced so many years Krishna consciousness, you will not get. No, because that mode is there. And that is actually a representation of Vishnu. It's very powerful. It's Vishnu's energy. Right? Of course, it's not Mohini Murthy in her personal. Vishnu has not come in such a form to bewilder us, because that is not required for us. Small things also bewilder us. But we can understand that no, this energy is very powerful. So there is nothing to feel ashamed that we are weak in front of this energy. But at the same time, we have to work to reinstate our own position. And this is what you see repeatedly in the Shastra. I want to take 2-3 more examples, but 1 or 2 I'll just say briefly and then we will take some questions. If you see in the, I'll just complete this discussion and take questions, because just running out of time. Brahmaji also, if you see, when Brahmaji also gets bewildered by Krishna's pastimes, when he comes and he hides the cowherd boys, if you see the chapter 14, Brahma Vimohan Leela, it's very beautiful. That when Brahmaji also gets bewildered, the way he offers prayers, the way he says that, yes, I did fall to the mode of passion, I understand that this is my problem, and I understand who you are, and some of the best prayers of the Bhagavatam are in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, at the conclusion of Brahma's bewilderment. So, these examples, Shiva's bewilderment, Brahma's bewilderment, are given in the Bhagavatam to make us very realistically understand that when the modes affect us, how we respond. And how we respond is the actual thing. That means that is actually considered the sign of our advancement, or whatever you want to call. Generally in this world, when we fall prey to the modes of nature, we respond in 2 prominent ways. One is by withdrawal and one is by anger. Generally we see, even when small things happen in our life where things go wrong, we immediately tend to become angry. Generally. Or when something happens where we cannot control ourselves, we withdraw. Or we feel that I will quit all this. मेरे से नहीं होता ये सब. मेरे से नहीं जमता. So that means withdrawal and anger are 2 very prominent symptoms of response that we show in the world. Withdrawal and anger are very prominent ways in which we respond to situations in the world. But if you see Shiva responding, Brahma responding, they don't respond like that. In fact, they respond with a lot of tolerance. Now I'll just take another example of the same thing, and then we will take some questions. This is not a very well-known story, but still it illustrates something very interesting. Look at this one. So there was this person whose name was Saudas. Okay, in the Bhagavatam this comes. This Saudas was a king. Okay, and this Saudas was cursed by Vashishta to become a man-eater. Now please remember, he became a man-eater. Man-eater means what? Rakshas. That means in the mode of ignorance. Now how did he become? Just see. So Parikshit is asking, I wish to know, please describe it to me. So Shukdev Goswami is saying, once Shaudas went to live in the forest where he killed a man-eater, but he forgave and released the man-eater's brother. That brother, however, decided to take revenge. Thinking to harm the king, he became the cook in the king's house. One day the king's spiritual master Vashishta Muni was invited for dinner, and the Rakshasa cooked and served him human flesh. So this Saudas had killed a man-eater. That man-eater's brother, to take revenge, he became a cook. And he served Vashishta, who is his guru, human flesh. While examining the food given to him, Vashishta Muni by his mystic power could understand it was unfit to eat, being the flesh of a human being. He was angry and immediately cursed Saudas to become a man-eater. He cursed him to become a man-eater. Now you can see Tamogun coming here. Okay. Now you see the response. See, Tamogun aa gaya, abhi kya karoge? Look at his response. When Vashishta understood that the human flesh had been served by the Rakshasa and not the king, he undertook 12 years of austerity to cleanse himself for having cursed the faultless king. You see this? Vashishta also understood, मैंने गलती किया. Unnecessarily गुस्सा होकर उसको श्राप दिया ना, उसका गलती नहीं था. He was a nice king. So he decided 12 years I will do penance now to transform myself. I have fallen down. I have done a mistake. It's a mistake only. Now look here, huh? King Saudas, he is also a powerful guy. He took water, chanted the Shapa mantra, preparing to curse Vashishta. But his wife, Madayanti, forbade him to do so. So she gave him good advice. देखो अब ये बंद कर दो ये तमोगुण. जरूरत नहीं. There is no need to curse him back. Okay. Then the king saw that the 10 directions, the sky and the surface of the globe were full of living entities. You understood this? So he cursed. Vashishta also fell prey to a lower mode, but he decided to reform. Saudas also wanted to curse, but his wife, good intelligence. So that's why wife is considered good intelligence. So she said that no, don't curse him. Chhod do. But then what happened? Jo hona hai wo to ho gaye. Saudas acquired the property of a man-eater and received on his leg a black spot for which he was known as Kamalaspada. So he became a man-eater now. Now please remember this, becoming man-eater basically means what? Once that characteristic comes into your body, you have to act helplessly according to that. You will become a man-eater. It's not that now you cannot say that I'll control my desires. नहीं, वो राक्षस का पूरा property body आ गया तुम्हारे इसमें. That kind of desires, that kind of body, that kind of everything comes. You know, the subtle body, gross body, everything. So once this king saw a Brahmana couple engaged in the act in the forest, you know, so there was a Brahmana couple who were trying for a child. So he saw them. Influenced by the propensity of a Rakshasa and being very hungry, Saudas seized the Brahmana. The poor woman, the Brahmana's wife, told the king, "Oh hero, you are actually not a man-eater. Rather, you are actually the descendant of Maharaj Ikshvaku. You are in that Vamsha. He's Rama Vamsha. In Rama's forefather, this Saudas is. Indeed, you are a great fighter, the husband of Madayanti. You should not act irreligiously in this way. I want to have a son. Please return my husband who has not yet impregnated me." So they were about to do the act. That time Saudas caught the Brahman. O king, O hero, this human body is meant for universal benefit. If you kill this human body untimely, you will kill all benefits of human life. Here is this wife is saying, the wife of Brahman is telling Saudas. Here is a learned and highly qualified Brahman engaged in performing austerity and eagerly desiring to worship Supreme Lord, Super Soul, who resides in the core of heart of all living entities. My lord, you are completely aware of religious principles. As a son never desires to be killed by his father, here is a Brahmana who should be protected by the king and never killed. How does he deserve to be killed by a Rajarishi like you? She is telling all these things to him. Without my husband, I cannot live for a moment. If you want to eat my husband, it would be better for you to eat me first. For without my husband, I am good as a dead body. But now you see this, the power of the modes of nature. Being condemned by the curse of Vashishta, Saudas devoured the Brahman. That means though that Brahman Patni petitioned him repeatedly, please don't do it. But he couldn't control himself because the mode of ignorance was acting. Exactly as a tiger devours the prey. Even though the Brahman's wife spoke so pitiably, Saudas was unmoved by her lamentation. That is the effect of Tamoguna. When the chaste wife of the Brahman saw her husband who was about to discharge had been eaten by the man-eater, she was overwhelmed with grief and lamentation. Thus she angrily cursed the king. Vapas shrap laga uske upar. What is the curse? Thus the wife of Brahmana cursed Saudas, known as Mitra Saha. What was the curse? Sorry, I think I missed the curse verse. oh foolish sinful person, because you eaten my husband when I was inclined and desired to have a child, shall see you also die when you attempt to discharge semen in your wife. In other words, when you attempt to unite with your wife, you will die. ये श्राप देके सती कर लिया उसने. She killed herself, the Brahman Patni. Now 12 years में Saudas was released from the curse. Which curse? Vashishta's curse. Now he wanted to have a child, but now this curse is there. So you understood this. So the thing is how he responds. See, you know what he does? The conclusion of the story is he invites Vashishta, because the system is that when you cannot have the child with your wife, a Brahmana can do that on your behalf. So he tells Vashishta to do it on his behalf, and then the next progeny comes. So Vashishta comes and unites with the wife of this king, and then the next king comes up actually. You understood this? So if you see the story, it teaches us many things actually. One thing it teaches us very strongly is that the effect of Tamogun. In Tamogun and anger, when you do something, then that becomes, unchangeable. Vashishta ne shrap diya. Had he at least found out or something, it would have been okay. But he just acted on the spur of the moment. And the spur of the moment when he acted, that whatever he did had to bear fruit. The Shaudas became Rakshas. Because of this, all this happened. So one thing is about the modes of nature. Second thing is how you react to that situation. Now, Shaudas also, even when he comes back, see, please remember, he understands that now I am a king. I have a duty. I have to have the next king. Okay, now all this happened in one way because of Vashishta. But still, I have to ask Vashishta only to do this job. You understood this? Just see how, just try to picture yourself in that environment and try to see this type of response. How are you responding like this? When such an event has happened, but you say that there's no other choice only. I have to tolerate. So basically 2-3 things you see. One is tolerance, that yes, this is how the world is. So we have to tolerate these situations, right? And we have to do whatever is necessary and just go ahead in life. So these are some things that you see. So this is one way of response that you see here. And so that's why I took 2-3 examples. So the Bhagavatam is actually full of such examples only. If you see all these Brahmanas and these sages or these great rishis or these kings or Brahma or Shiva, whenever somebody is being inflicted by the lower mode, how they are responding to that in a way that they don't increase the problem. So the whole thing is respond in a way not to increase the problem but to decrease the problem, to mitigate things. When one can do that, then one can actually go ahead in devotional service. But otherwise, if one decides that no, I will counter curse, I will again act in Tamoguna, then there is no end to it. And then there is Daksha's life only. Okay, so any question or comment here? Yeah.
A question from previous.
Yeah.
You were telling that pure devotional service of Ahetuki Apratihata is only possible when we are free from 3 modes.
Yeah, Kapila Singh.
Yeah. Only once I was hearing in one class by Radheshwam Prabhu, he was telling that pure devotional service means as long as our aspirations are pure, that is something like goal may be out of the reach, but goal is not out of the sight.
Yeah.
So if one of our aspirations are pure and one is practicing as as Maharaj always says, that is seriousness with no motives, ulterior motives, then also though we are in modes, but since our aspirations are pure, then that is also pure devotional service. Then how do we...
Yeah, but still, even if you say that, I understood. You are under the guidance of the Guru. That means even if you are doing mixed devotional service, if your Guru is a pure devotee and you are following him strictly, you are doing pure devotion. We hear that, I agree. But still the point is, at our level, can you perform Ahetuki Apratihata? You know, this Ahetuki Apratihata Bhakti is a very high platform actually. It's very difficult to do that. Yeah. So that is considered the characteristic of one's performance of devotional service.
No, but one is aspiring for that.
Yeah, one is aspiring for that, but one is unable to do that, right? One is aspiring for that, that's right. That's a good aspiration, certainly. All of us are mixed devotees only. We are aspiring to perform that kind of devotional service. One thing is to aspire like that, one is to actually reach that level, right? That also is there only. Means, right? So, just like sadhaka stage and prema bhakti or whatever, right? So, there is perfection in stage as well. That's unavoidable.
Prabhuji, in these two examples you have taken, one is Shiva going after Muni Murti, and this is Saudasa story. This Saudasa story, he has not done any bad thing. Just he has killed a man-eater who is
that's what, no? Prabhupada explains the purport that in the material world is such that even when you may not do anything wrong, somehow some situation may come in your life. That could be because of your past life also. That's how you have to see it. That's how he has to see it. Though it's not being said here. When something comes because of past life, some environment comes which is extremely tamasic in your life, you have to deal with it. See, my point is Saudas could have messed up a lot. He could have cursed Vasishtha. Correct? He could have cursed Vasishtha. He could have said that I don't care about anything. I don't want a child only. I will not enter in Vasishtha only in my kingdom. Get lost. He could have done all that. But did he do that? He didn't do it. You understood? He didn't respond like that.
He brought Vasishtha.
Yeah. Level 1, when Vasishtha cursed him, he didn't curse back. Though he wanted to curse, his wife told him, but whatever. By his good intelligence, he decided not to curse. And later when he understood that I cannot have a child, that also in one way because of his fault only or whatever. But he knew that this is the only thing I have to do. There is nothing else I could do now at this point. His response was very mature. That's what I am saying. In that situation. See, he was forced by circumstance. Once he became a man-eater, he has no choice only. You have to eat a man only. What can you do? Your body is only like that, right? If I have a body of a tiger, I have to eat someone. What can I do? I mean, I have no free will only there. So there you are completely under the moods. But when you are out of it and when you know that you have a chance to control yourself, he behaved, his response was good. So that response is what is important. Yeah?
Yesterday in the temple, in the Prabhupada offerings, actually there were many offerings like this, where they were sharing that how Prabhupada said that if we will also get disturbed, then what is the difference between them and us?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of examples they were sharing.
Yeah.
Past times like this.
Yeah, I think Prabhupada in the context of some neighbors troubling or something, how we should tolerate that and not get disturbed. Not fight. Yeah, correct. Flight, yeah. Yeah.
We deal with other persons. We deal with their natures only, like in Satogun, Tamogun. So the other person he is behaving with us in ignorance or see in lower mode. We cannot allow curse in the body.
Yeah, you cannot. That means you are also behaving in that mode only, na then?
Yeah, then every time means you'll have to tolerate only that.
No, you're talking in office or home?
Home there is no question, Guruji.
Office, na?
Office and other.
Yeah, I know. See, just tell me one simple thing. Suppose we are on the street. And a typical thing happens, somebody's bike hits the car or something like that. First thing, people start giving all kinds of bad words, right? On mother, sister, everything. Now the question is, are we going to do the same thing over there? We have to do, I mean, what to do?
We do.
You cannot do. There's a problem, you have to tolerate. What else can you do?
Sometimes there, in this example, this accident means a car is touching other bikes or something. They may start beating also, no? They hands and all that. And we cannot say I am now in a position to tolerate that. We cannot say no, practically.
Yeah, but one thing we have to remember that if we respond with tamoguna, as such I'll tell you, that is also not some very ideal response. Usse kuch benefit nahi hota hai. We see people fighting also on the street, beating each other. Yeah, that only increases. So we have to be very clear about it. Actually, we think like that, but many times it is not that way. So I heard one devotee giving a lecture. He said that he was driving in some place, I forgot where, Thailand or something he was saying. Some place, so where his car actually hit another person. So it seems the first thing he went and told that person sorry, the driver, he was not a devotee or something. He went and told the other person, I'm very sorry, I did this to you. Whatever it is, I'll bear this thing, because it's my mistake. So he just owned it up immediately. Then there was the other person also said, no, you didn't do it, it was my mistake only. So generally one thing is also there that lower mode attracts lower mode, that is there. And when you behave decently even with common people, you attract that best out of them in that situation. That is also there. If we think that is the only option and we do it, then we have to bear the consequence of what tamasha will happen over there. That is there. Right?
Regarding that, you said...
That's what I said, no? Saudas. Now you may say, now just imagine, you have been cursed to be a man-eater without any cause. And you also have a power to curse. You are not some useless person. Sauda is a very powerful, he is a Raja Rishi, na? He has a power to curse Vashishta. But he is not cursing. He is saying, okay, theek hai. You cursed me, and Vashishta also understands, I galti kiya. He atones for it separately. He says, 12 years I will go and do tapasya. Because what can I do now? I mean, once the curse has come, it has come only, right? I mean, even Vashishta cannot withdraw his own curse. He is a powerful Brahmana. Bol diya to ho gaya wo kaam. So he goes into that penance mode. And then Shaudas gets another curse because of first curse. But he again goes back to Vashishta only and solves his family issue and goes ahead. And ultimately Rama is born in that dynasty. You see that? So the point is, when you respond with maturity and tolerance, there is benefit in the end. At that time it is very difficult to do it like that. But that's what you see in the Shastra.
You have to respond in most mature.
Yeah, no question. No question. Yeah. Any other question?
Immediately after that thing has happened, we may not
be able to respond. Like in Vasishtha case, he did not knew.
He did not?
He did not know the actual thing. Afterwards he came to know, then he repented. But in our case, we cannot respond properly. But afterwards, what can we do?
Oh, afterwards you can beg sorry. What else can we do? What else? You do tapasya. That's what Vashishta is doing. Na? He did mistake. You did penance. He is doing 12-year penance. He is saying, I curse that man to become 12-year Rakshas. Am I going to enjoy 12 years? No, I will do penance for 12 years. He is also taking responsibility. You see, Vashishta. He is not simply saying that, hey, sorry, galti ho gaya. Abhi Rakshas ban ja. I'll go and have a nice time in my hermitage. So he's also taking responsibility for his mistake.
Once I was getting this question answer CD of Maharaj. So then Govindu asked one question to Maharaj. That Maharaj, we hear
on the mic.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Govindu was asking a question to Maharaj. He says, Maharaj, that many times we hear so many different instructions from you, but we keep on failing. So then what we should do? Then Maharaj said that we should not try to fail, but if we fail and if we rectify, then it is not very bad. So he said that even if you fail, but if you rectify it, somehow, then it is not that bad. So what I have seen, like one application, what I have seen in my life is that between when something happens at home, that you act in lower mode, then immediately once you recognize that I have acted in lower mode, then if you patch it up later,
apologize, yeah,
whatever. So once you rectify, then Maharaj was telling it is not like as bad.
Yeah, correct.
But habit also.
Yeah. So if it is sincerely done, then it will reduce the frequency or whatever, right? I mean.
This should not become habit. Intentionally.
Yeah, no, then it is not like that. It's not intentionally. See, the problem is because we are in the lower mode by nature, externally we are taking to so many nice acts of devotional service, but because our basic nature is lower only, so that will keep coming up in some way or the other. But we have to see how to fight. Life is about that, right? Life is about fighting and trying to reinstate oneself. What else can you do? That's what you see in the Shastra. Everyone is trying to reinstate himself from that fallen condition and working hard. That's life. And we do that.
Prabhuji, how do we identify that we are now in passion or ignorance? I mean, or maybe we are always in ignorance only. But how do we identify and how to engage that mode in our advantage rather than we are getting exploited?
I think, see, passion is very easy to identify. Passion is identifiable by at least personally I have understood it like this. Whenever I am very restless, I have understood that at that time I am in passion. You understand restlessness? Restlessness means, a state of constant agitation. A state of constant, not at peace with yourself. You understand that actually. That now I have gone very restless now. I have lost hold of myself. Matlab, mera jo internal power to withhold things is gone now. That's passion. Ignorance means what? Extreme lethargy, inertia, laziness. Right? Generally speaking, like I mean, I was very surprised to hear this, that when a brahmachari, you know, what is one of his vows of a brahmachari? When the brahmachari undergoes a sacred thread ceremony, he has only 2 vows. Vow number 1 is to chant Gayatri 3 times a day. Vow number 2 is not to sleep in the afternoon. So I asked my one Tamil priest, actually, I asked him, why is this being made? He said that is considered extremely important for a brahmachari or for anybody not to sleep in the daytime, because that increases tamas like anything. It increases inertia, laziness, lethargy. So lethargy, laziness is very easily perceivable when we have entered that domain. So I see lethargy, laziness as a simple way you can identify tamas, and restlessness as a way you can identify rajoguna. How to make use of it? What? Positively? Yeah. Generally, my understanding is that once you have entered a mode very strongly, you come out only after. That's what you see in Shiva also. When Shiva, when he's running behind Mohini Murti, and when that passion is increased, only after the discharge of semen at that time, he comes into a sober state. That means till that time that act of passion continues, because that's like the ultimate conclusion of passion. तो वहां जाके सब कुछ रुक जाता है, फिर आदमी सोबर होता है, मैंने ये सब क्यों किया करके. You understood, na? So generally, whatever my understanding is that it is better that that mode is consciously avoided, in terms of, you know, becoming overly restless, becoming overly lazy by lifestyle management. We'll keep failing repeatedly, no worries about it, but try to keep working on ensuring that at least our frequency of failure keeps reducing or whatever. That's all what we can do. That's the fight of life. Correct? Generally, if we are already full-fledged into passion or ignorance, until we it will then, you know, by the natural cycle of time you come back. Just like, for example, you know, the morning time when you get up, generally you are in a goodness state only, and then you decide. So one day if you have already gone into that mode, then only perhaps after that whole time cycle is over, you come back into proper state. But it is very difficult. Generally that time, my observation is that when you are restless and you chant, I find it very difficult to chant also that time. I keep restlessly chanting basically. I mean, that restlessness and chanting have merged together in one khichdi. That is chanting in the mode of passion, where you are running and chanting, and you know, you are WhatsApping and chanting, doing all that stuff. Right? So, generally, it's not easy to immediately come out. Arey, modes are powerful. They are not so easy that you can't just walk in and come out. It's not a room that you go in and come out. Once you have taken it, you have taken it. You have willingly taken it. So we need to remember that. We are responsible for that situation. I feel that that's at a very high level one does it. No, he's saying that Hanuman burnt Lanka. See, Hanuman burning Lanka and all, that means using passion, ignorance, that is at a much more higher stage actually. That means, yeah, you have to be primarily in goodness when you can use passion in the service of the Lord. See, Hanuman used passion, please remember, but still he was brahmachari. Not easy. Not easy at all. So that is actually a proof that he was never personally in that mode. He just used it. Because if you are intrinsically passionate, you can't remain brahmachari only. By definition, you cannot. How can you be? Brahmachari and passionate don't go together. It is contradictory characteristic. साथ में ही नहीं होता ना. So I think using the modes, yeah, it's a higher platform. It's a higher platform. Because in some way we use, like we have a child, for that we have to use passion. So things like that are there where we also dovetail it in the service of the Lord. But normally speaking, that's not the way.
For seva, we can use the mode of passion, like for preaching and all. It requires some passion only to go out, preach, to call boys.
But I feel, you know, that's not the same thing that what we are talking here. See, please try to understand. That's what, I was also reflecting on this. We generally say, you know, Brahmana means goodness, Kshatriya means passion, Vaishya means ignorance, Shudra means, you know, ignorance only. That doesn't mean the Shudra is always drunk and like that. No. If you see, when Prabhupada is talking here about, you know, in goodness, he is talking about Varnashram, saying that the cooperation between the 4 castes is a symptom of mode of goodness. If you see these Shudras, they are considered tamasic because they are interested in gross matter. They are interested in physical things. That is the tamas in them. That is actually a much refined version of tamasic nature than what we understand tamasic in nowadays term. We understand tamasic is somebody fully drunk and full tight, as we call it. That's what we understand as tamasic. But the Shastric understanding of tamasic is much more refined there. It's about, like a cobbler or blacksmith, because he's interacting with matter, gross matter. He's called as Shudra. You understood, right? Like an engineer, why is he called as in that category? Because he's interacting with gross matter, like that.
Like once I was hearing from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he was telling that life of ISKCON is very much in mode of passion. He was telling this comment.
Yeah.
He was telling if you see our brahmacharis, they're always running here, there. So basically mode of goodness life is very peaceful, like sit at one place, do,
So it's not easy for them to maintain. That's why life is also, that's why in general, you think, see that passion, if you let it out of control, simply running around, please remember, is not necessarily understood as passion. Please remember. See, passion is very clear. Your mind has become restless and agitated. That is passion. A person who is working very hard in the service of the deity is not necessarily his mind has become restless. If at a point it has, then he will have to change his lifestyle. He cannot maintain his brahmacharya ashrama. 100% he cannot. How can he? For some time he will do some drama, but he will have to leave eventually. Nahi hoga, sustain ही नहीं हो पाएगा. And you're right. What he's saying is right only. It is more of passion. So we have the result of that. No? That's why there are so many challenges in our management and just being together. Yeah.
Something I wanted to share this. Bhakti Vidyabhun Maharaj says that mode of goodness, how to, like he was asking how to identify. So one way is when one is confused, generally confused about decisions and all, its mode of passion. And when one is very convinced of what is actually wrong to be right thing. That's actually ignorance. Means you are so convinced about the wrong thing to be right. That's ignorance. And mode of goodness means you are clear in your life. What has to be done and what has not to be done. So that's...
And what is actually right, you have understood to be right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, correct. So, yeah, good. Any other point? We have 5 more minutes, maybe just. Yeah, the point. I'll just end with some interesting story that I heard. We were talking about response, how you respond to situation. So this is again from Govind Prabhu's class. I heard on this very fantastic and very practical example of how somebody responds in some ways. In real life of ordinary people, not of devotees or something. How people actually respond. And that means the whole point is, you can see Krishna in any situation if you desire to. You can actually see God in any situation. That is actually our Shastra. Our Shastra is not about telling us to see Krishna only in the temple. It is to see Krishna everywhere. To see Krishna in any situation. And unless we learn to see Krishna in any situation, we are not really, progressing to call ourselves as devotees. If we say that Krishna is only in the temple. So he was telling the story of... he had read the story, it had come in some magazine about the Indian army. He was saying that in the Siachen glacier, which is there, where the Indian army is posted, it's a very difficult place to stay and do things. So it seems there the army, when they are walking, what they do is, they tie themselves with rope. Suppose if a team of 8 soldiers are walking, they tie their belly with rope. And they walk, because cooperation is very important over there. You can't say that मैं अकेला ही सब करूँगा, नहीं. So if somebody slips on the snow, you have other people to hold them back. So it seems once, recently, there were 8 soldiers who were walking up a slope on the icy mountain. And each of them were carrying a 35 kilo weight and their belly was connected with rope. So all the 8 were connected with rope. So the most dangerous thing on these icy glaciers is what they call as crevice. Crevice means opening. And that crevice is sometimes covered by ice. Snow. By thin layer of snow. So you cannot understand crevices there. So when these 8 people were walking some time ago, first man crossed, second man crossed. The 8th man fell into the crevice. Because the crevice was covered by ice which no one knew. So the first 7 men, when they walked over it, the crevice started weakening. And by the time the 8th man arrived, it completely gave away. So when the 8th man fell in, because it was a slope, he started pulling all the other guys into the crevice. Understood? So now the captain of that team, he immediately gave the order to the 7th man, cut the rope behind you, otherwise we all will die. It's like you're all falling into death. So the 7th man cut the rope. And when they cut the rope, they heard the scream of the 8th man. Because now he understood that, I'm being left down. See, because when you are dying, you want support. He understood, ye log ne kaat diya abhi rope. But still the 7, it seems, came down to look where this fellow is. And when they came to see, they saw that this 8th man, he had not fallen into a bottomless crevice, but rather he was stuck. So what happened is that, so this is a slope, so there is a crevice, and in the crevice it was like this. So this man was stuck here. That means in the crevice only, between 2 layers of snow, he was stuck in the middle, hanging like this. With ice here, packed, shouting for help. So then the 7 men understood that, chalo, kuch to ho sakta hai. So they called their center. In 2 hours, the rescue team came. And rescue team has much more equipment and everything. So the captain of the rescue team went down. And they tied again a rope over this fellow. And from top they started pulling him. All this original 7 and plus rescue team people, everybody is pulling this 8th man up. But as they were pulling, they understood that he's not coming out only. Then they employed technology. There is something called glacier scooters to cut through the ice to remove this fellow. But then they understood that what had actually happened was his jacket had melted. This 8th fellow who fell in, his jacket had melted in that snowy atmosphere and the ice had packed his shoulders. So there was no hope only. So after couple of hours of effort, they understood that isko bacha hi nahi sakte hum. Yahan fas gaya. And the climate was changing. So there was danger that that crevice would close. You understood, na? So the rescue team which has entered in, they will also die if the crevice closes. You don't have control over the environment. Correct? The crevice can close anytime. So then what, finally the captain of that team, they decided that isko bacha nahi sakte. We'll just leave and go. So the captain, it seems, of the team, he went down to this man. And he told him, so that fellow was crying, it seems, that he was alive. He was saying, kuch to karo na mujhe. वो बोले तुम्हारा कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता है, क्या करें? इससे तुम एक ही चीज कर सकते हो, अभी तुम भगवान को याद करो अभी. That captain advised him. The captain only advised him. Just remember God as much as you can. What else can we do for you? Tell me. We have tried everything. We are unable to help you a lot. So, Govind Prabhu, when he was speaking on this, he was telling that how he used this story when he was talking to 6th and 7th standard children in Gopal's garden, telling them that life can put you in some very tough situations, but you have to see Krishna there also. And the ultimate thing in our philosophy is to see Krishna in death. Means you have to see Krishna in death also. Then he was asking these children, it seems. He was telling that he was asking the children that in India, daily 35,000 abortions are done. That's the current statistics. 35,000 children are killed in the womb daily in India. Daily. 10 million a year in India, in our country. Worldwide, it's much higher figure. Right? So he was saying that, would you prefer to die in the womb of your mother by being aborted? Or would you prefer to die in the crevice? Where at least somebody comes and tells you that Bhagwan ko yaad karo. He was asking all the children. All the children said, we will die in the crevice. So he was saying that it's very simple to understand that, opportunity for life, and ultimately you have to see God. So the whole topic was, there are no atheists in the foxhole. There's an English saying actually. In the foxhole, there are no atheists. In a difficult situation, there is no atheist. How can an atheist be there? Like, there cannot be an atheist. So it seems in any war also, people are very religious. So it seems Chowpatty, a couple of years back, they decided to book distribution in the army in Srinagar. So 80,000 soldiers are there over there. They say, we'll do book distribution for them. Because they are actually facing death. So let them read the book and understand. So he was saying that captain, had he read Bhagavad Gita, he could have said, Krishna ko yaad karo. He said, of course, Bhagavan is Krishna only, we know, but still, it could have been more direct. So the man was stuck in. So he was saying that How it is so important to seek God in any situation. Now, of course, there was another thing that later that another captain of that team, that fellow, what happened? They understood that this man will live there for a very long time before dying. You understood, na? Because in those levels, you don't need water, food, anything. Air is so fresh, you will not die only. Metabolism very slow, so you will not die. So what this fellow did, another fellow, he told him, remember God, and he strangulated and killed him. Yeah, and he came back and he told that this is what I did. And his bosses, they appreciated him. They said, you did the right thing. Because otherwise, that fellow for him, now, the suffering of waiting for death for days is unimaginable torture. See, right now we are thinking that why you killed him. But if you don't kill him, that man may be alive for 5 days, day and night, waiting for the crevice to close and die. Which is a much more, and death is the sure only. It is just now, either you die now or you die after 5 days of torture. You understood, right? So he told him that you think about God and I will finish. So he came back and he cried to his boss saying that I had to do it. And they said that we are okay with you. What you did is perfect in that situation. But what else can you say? What else can the person do? So this had come in a report to say that how, I mean, Govind Bro was using this as an example to say that how one has to actually see, I mean, the world is actually very cruel. The modes of material nature are very ghastly. And in any situation, how you respond, what you do is actually determines, who you are or whatever. Right? Make sense? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Nitaya Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare. Damodar Ashtakam is already over. We did it at 6:30 itself. So right now only there is, I think, cake cutting celebration. Uddhav's birthday.